Introduction to SMS 2003. In a small company or home network, it's pretty easy to get by managing a group of computers or servers manually, updating virus definitions, patches, even operating systems. It's not too much trouble with only a few devices. However, in larger corporate environments, it's simply not feasible to run around to every computer or server in your company to install software, or to even find out what software is installed. This is where products like SMS or Systems Management Server really shine, giving you, the administrator, a method of managing all of your systems from the comfort of your own desk. Microsoft Systems Management Server 2003, or SMS 2003 as I'll refer to it from now on, is Microsoft's answer to most of your Windows management problems. And throughout this course, we'll see how to install, configure, and use SMS to control the systems in your network. Now, if you're new to SMS, let's quickly run through an overview of what SMS is all about. At its very core, when most people think about SMS, they think about application management and deployment. And for good reason too, because SMS does both of these things rather well. Applications, patches, service packs, and updates can be targeted to remote clients depending on certain conditions. For example, let's say we have a security patch for a Windows XP machine. We can remotely apply that only to machines that are running Windows XP, and all other operating systems won't receive the new patch. SMS can also provide a detailed inventory of target machines, even down to what BIOS is in your current machine. And of course, what software and patches are installed. Now, this becomes really useful when you're sorting out your licensing requirements. But in addition to licensing, it also allows you to take it a step further to find out what applications are being used, and by whom and for how often. Now sure, this sounds like a sneaky way of checking up on people, and of course it can be used for that, but it also lets you know if you really need to be paying up for license fees for applications that your users simply aren't using. And in large corporate environments, you'll probably be surprised which applications aren't being used very often, if at all. And knowing this information can represent a real money saving right there. SMS also provides great support for mobile users as well. See, typically in a patch scenario at the corporate office, if you're using something like Windows Update Services or the older Software Update Services, your computer will download any required patches from the designated server in your office. However, if you're a frequent traveler, the last thing you want to do is pull down a 100 meg service pack over the WAN, or perhaps a regular dial-up modem. SMS can automatically reassign mobile users to the local site where they are now, say in a different country, and have the patches it needs delivered locally, and of course that saves a lot of network bandwidth and cursing for our remote user, as the patch is able to be retrieved at LAN speeds. Also, with SMS 2003, your life as a security administrator has been made considerably easier, as SMS can identify which clients out there in your network need certain patches applied, and it provides rich reporting back to you, or you can automatically apply the required patches in real time if you'd prefer. And further to this, if the download of software to the client is interrupted for any reason, the next time your client's reconnected to the network, the transfer will resume exactly where it left off. And because these checkpoints are recorded at the byte level, this means that if you only download 99 meg of a 100 meg file and you're disconnected, well, you only have to download the remaining 1 meg and you're done. So no more having to restart the entire download. Now, of course, being a Microsoft product, SMS 2003 works with Active Directory to discover the properties of users and computers in your network, and rather than using IP subnets to define SMS site boundaries, it can now use Active Directory site names to define your sites. Now, there are a lot more features than what I've just presented here, and we'll get through these throughout this course, and you'll see just how a properly deployed and configured SMS installation can be proactive in assisting you manage your network. But like any application though, there are a list of prerequisites that you must meet in order to install SMS. So let's take a quick look at what you'll need to have before you can get started. Firstly, if it's an SMS server you want to install, you'll need at minimum a server with a 550 MHz CPU, although that's a pretty conservative minimum. Now, if you expect to get any sort of performance out of your SMS server, and if you plan on putting your database on the same server, you'll want something considerably more powerful than 550 MHz. Now, for those of you who have hardware to burn SMS supports up to 8 CPUs on each server, so if you're lucky enough to have hardware like that lying around, dig it out and use it for SMS. Now you'll also need to have any of the Windows Server 2003 operating systems with the exception of the Web Edition, or you'll need Windows Server 2000 with Service Pack 2 or higher. But it's worth pointing out here that if you are planning on installing management points on a Windows 2000 server, you'll need Service Pack 3 or higher. Now your server must have at least 256 meg of RAM on top of your base operating system requirements, and it must have at least 2 gigabytes of free disk space. Now SMS does require that you have a SQL database, so if you're planning on installing SQL on the same server as your SMS server, which is probably not the best idea in a large production environment, I'd suggest using a dedicated SQL server. Either way, these memory, CPU and disk requirements will increase considerably once you factor in the SQL components that you'll need. Now, SQL Server itself can be either version 7 or version 2000 with Service Pack 3 or higher. Now further in this course we'll see that certain SMS site roles will require IIS to be installed, and that of course will bump up your memory, CPU and disk requirements as well. So as you can see, the minimum hardware requirements of SMS 2003 aren't really a lot, and with these minimums SMS will indeed run. But in reality you'll want to have a big beefy machine with plenty of RAM and a fast CPU if you want SMS to perform well. Now finally, for the best performance and security, you're also going to want to install SMS on an NTFS partition, and preferably a fault-tolerant one as well. Okay, well that's the server requirements out of the way, so let's take a look at the requirements you'll need to have for your clients to be managed by SMS. Now client requirements really aren't all that much to worry about unless you really have some old hardware you still want to manage. Now your clients will need to have at least a 133 MHz CPU with 300 MHz being the recommended speed. Now your client will need to be running Windows 98 or higher, and don't forget that your server operating systems are also SMS clients, so this list does include Windows NT Server, 2000 Server and Windows Server 2003, as well as the client operating systems from Windows 98 and above. Now SMS will also require your clients to have a minimum of 64 megs of RAM, although 128 is recommended, as anything less than 128 will be rather slow and certain features may be disabled. And finally, you're going to need about 80 meg of disk space and Internet Explorer version 5 in order to manage your client using SMS. Alright, now even though we've just run through a quick look at what you'll need before you can install SMS, don't forget these are the minimum requirements, and given the state of computer hardware nowadays, it's unlikely that you won't exceed these requirements quite easily. In fact, it's mandatory that you do exceed these requirements, especially on the server side of things, or you can simply expect SMS to run at a snail's pace, which is not really what you want when you're relying on a product like SMS to do so many critical things for you. Now the main areas to concentrate on are fast, redundant hard disks for your SMS servers and database servers, plenty of RAM, and if it's going to be a large SMS site that you're managing, I'd certainly be recommending a multiprocessor system. Okay, in this short introductory video, we've looked at what SMS is and the benefits it can offer organizations to assist them in managing their systems. We've also taken a look at the hardware and software requirements you'll need to meet before you can install SMS. Now in the coming videos, we'll discuss planning and finally installing SMS.